I have just been on sabbatical, fall semester 2015. I was in northern Minnesota and living just outside of the town, small city I guess, of Bemidji, Minnesota. So that's in the upper, well in the upper half of northern Minnesota. And that is a place that many Ojibwe reservations encircle the town of Bemidji. So I was in Bemidji and I was studying Ojibwe culture, contemporary Ojibwe culture, and also wild rice. A lot of the issues surrounding the continuation of the traditional practice of wild ricing, and also the plant itself. What are some of the challenges in, then 2015 to sort of the sanctity, if you will, of this plant. There's all kinds of pollution threats. There are oil pipelines. There already are many oil pipelines through northern Minnesota. There are several more slated, really big ones slated to come from the natural gas fields of North Dakota to cut right across that area, right across traditional native ricing beds along the lakes and through the reservations to go to the port of Duluth, Minnesota, to ship out on the Great Lakes. So there's a lot of conversation amongst Ojibwe people, but even just northern Minnesotans in general, regardless of their ethnicity, about challenges to the environment. So Ojibwe language, so I took classes, I audited classes at Leech Lake Tribal College, and one of the classes I took was Ojibwe language. And unfortunately, the assimilationist policies of the United States in the late 1800s, early 1900s were very successful in really doing a number on language, native languages. You've perhaps heard the stories that Indian children, often these boarding schools, mouths were washed out with soap if they were caught speaking their own language. Well, that succeeded, in fact, in eradicating certainly fluency in native languages, but really it's even beyond that. Very few Ojibwe people my age speak any Ojibwe, or just a few little words and phrases, certainly nothing very fluent. So those assimilationist policies succeeded linguistically. Even Ojibwe people today are learning Ojibwe as a second language. And I loved it. I loved learning to crack the secret code of any language. Ojibwe is very much an agglutinating language where you have kind of the pronouns on the front of the root word, and then the tenses on the back of that word, and you can add and subtract and you negate, kind of say, no, this is not such and such by a very specific structure. And I just found all of that so fascinating. I just loved it. There are many issues affecting Ojibwe people today. Certainly one is language loss, like we just talked about. Intermarriage with non-native people is another one. That blood quantum levels in young people today is sliding below the enrollment sort of threshold of 1/4 Ojibwe blood. So that's another big issue that people are talking a lot about. But I guess I would say the biggest one is about treaty rights, the exercise of traditional hunting, fishing, wild rice gathering rights in tribally ceded areas. So northern Minnesota is a succession of small land cessions where they signed away the land, but they did not sign away their traditional use rights. However, in the course of time, those use rights were not acknowledged They were not honored by the Euro-American settlers coming in or by the state governments that became created. And so, and yet they are there. They are enshrined in treaties, in treaty language. And so Ojibwe today are pushing back against that and are winning. They're winning because these are legal documents. But the challenge often becomes, how do you get them into the courts of law? And the state of Minnesota has been kind of savvy enough to know that you don't, how does the state of Minnesota win? You don't let them get into the court system by issuing a sort of special day permit for an Ojibwe person to go walleye fishing off reservation without a state of Minnesota fishing license. Here, complimentary one-day permit, which keeps the issue out of the courts. Well, the Jibway people want that issue into the courts. So there's a lot of contention and kind of feigning and fainting around all of that. So that was really interesting to talk to people about. Beneficial to EKU students, the campus community, because I can help bring the idea, the notion that Native people are not people of the past, cultures of the past, that these are very contemporary people living in very contemporary times. The issue of treaty rights is certainly one of those. And that, so something else that we are doing, we have launched a Native American Studies minor, an 18-hour minor. And I teach an American Indians class, Anthropology 330, and that is a required course in that minor. And I have created a whole Ojibwe, I teach an online version of this course also, so I created a whole Ojibwe module, as well as integrating Ojibwe examples into other weekly modules, content modules. So I guess I see that Ojibwe studies and my experience in northern Minnesota on sabbatical everyone who comes through the Native American Studies minor can have a little bit of a taste of what my sabbatical work was about.